welcome to GlideFast On Air. I'm Lauren Jankowski, the Marketing Manager here at GlideFast, and I'll be moderating today's webinar, How to Cut Back on Organizational Excess with Application Portfolio Management. Before we get started, I'd like to give you some background information on GlideFast Consulting. GlideFast is a consulting firm that is dedicated exclusively to ServiceNow. As an Elite ServiceNow Partner, our expert team of developers and architects have worked on both sides of the table, the customer side and the consulting side. Our company was founded by ServiceNow architects, and we're proud to have a team of over 150 experienced consultants, an average CSAT score of a 4.8 out of 5, and many more accolades as you can see here. As a perk of attending today's webinar, we'll be giving away a $50 Visa gift card. We'll announce the winner at the end of today's session, so be sure to stay on for the entire webinar. I'm excited to introduce to you our presenters for today. Ashley Snyder, a technical consultant at GlideFast, Chris Yang, a technical consultant at GlideFast, and Albert Su, a senior principal product manager at ServiceNow. I'll be monitoring the Q&A throughout today's session, so please send in any questions as they arise, and we'll do our best to answer them. Ashley, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Lauren. I'd like to thank everyone for joining this GlideFast on Air webinar, How to Cut Back on Organizational Excess with Application Portfolio Management. My name is Ashley Snyder, and I'm a technical consultant with GlideFast. Joining me today from GlideFast is Chris Yang and Albert Su from ServiceNow. I'll start this session with an overview of application portfolio management, and then I'll outline the use cases that drive the transformation of an optimized portfolio while reducing risk. At the end of the session, Chris will provide a demo, and Albert will present some exciting new features in APM. We'll also have some time for Q&A after the session. So I'd like to begin with an overview of application portfolio management. APM is part of the IT business management suite within ServiceNow. It ties into many other areas of the ServiceNow platform, such as software asset management and the CMDB. APM is used to define a comprehensive application inventory, reduce total cost of ownership by eliminating redundancies in applications, strengthen business capabilities by identifying technical gaps, and prevent risk by tracking life cycles with technology portfolio management. When implementing APM, it is helpful to ask key questions to ensure the right requirements are being captured. Questions such as, what is the goal of the business strategy? What are the current applications in the portfolio and how do they align to that strategy? Who are the application owners and how are they tracking application value? What are the risks of using an application that has supporting technology that is nearing end of life? What type of information is being used and what risks are present with applications using that information? And how can applications be measured to decide which ones to invest in or retire? In addition to asking the right questions, there are 4 main key stakeholder groups that need to be engaged during the implementation. First is IT leadership. These stakeholders are concerned with IT investments and use the application rationalization process to understand and drive down the total cost of ownership for the application portfolio. Second are enterprise architects. They are responsible for aligning applications to services, business capabilities, and the overall strategy. Third are application owners. This group is responsible for the business value and health of their applications. They create lifecycle plans, standards, and are responsible for the integrity of application attributes via data certification. And last is IT operations. Operations is concerned with application stability, high incident counts, and require up-to-date infrastructure mapping for incident resolution and outages. Now that I've provided an overview of APM, I'll move on to the use cases that facilitate an organization in crafting an efficient portfolio with the most common use case as the creation of an application inventory. Device configuration items need to be stored within the CMDB in order to begin the inventory. ServiceNow's Discovery scans the application and device CIs on the organization's network and maps them into their corresponding tables within the CMDB. After devices are mapped with Discovery, service mapping locates application services and builds a comprehensive map of the devices, applications, their dependencies, and configuration profiles used in business services. software asset management pairs with the CMDB in order to track vendor risk and lifecycle plans of the software and hardware models that support applications. After the creation of an application inventory, application owners categorize business applications based on purpose and function for rationalization and keep attributes up to date with data certification. So overlapping with the creation of an application inventory, the application rationalization process is utilized to optimize the current portfolio state. Application rationalization is broken down into 4 stages. During the first stage, an inventory is created and application owners classify applications based on categories and scoring. Once an inventory has been constructed, the second stage is to measure the applications that reside within it. APM ships with out-of-the-box indicators to assess applications based on cost, quality, risk, and user satisfaction in order to understand the current state of the portfolio. After the current state of the portfolio has been established, and the analyzation stage is used to define the future state of the portfolio by taking into account strategic value, functional fit, and risk of applications. And the final stage is to plan and take action. Data is used from the analyzation stage to make decisions on projects to fund, which applications should be retired or replaced, and the creation of application roadmaps. Once the organization has matured into its use of APM by creating an application inventory and utilizing application rationalization, it can take advantage of capability-based planning. What is a business capability? It's defined as an expression of what a business does and what it can do. When defining business capabilities, we're not concerned with who and how, as these items will change. Some examples of business capabilities are human resources management or business administration and operations. ServiceNow has created a specific CI class for business capabilities using the common service data model within the CMDB. In associating business capability CIs to application and service CIs, an organization can track and measure if applications and services are supporting the business capabilities. Business capabilities should be well defined in order to gauge how well applications and services are aligning to them. Through accurate definition and mapping, organizations can identify technical gaps and redundancies within their IT infrastructure in order to make better strategic investments. As an organization reduces costs by rationalizing applications and makes strategic investments using capability-based planning, it can also equip technology portfolio management to minimize vendor risk and track life cycles for the applications and technologies within the portfolio. ServiceNow Software Asset Management partners with the CMDB and APM to provide insight on vendor risk issues for the software and hardware models of the underlying infrastructure that support business applications. Outdated software versions, vendor support contracts, and end-of-life technologies are risks that lifecycle stages need to track in order to prevent or minimize their impact. The technology portfolio management timeline is a visual tool that allows stakeholders to view these risks at a glance. In addition to preventing vendor risk, technology portfolio management allows organizations to set internal lifecycle guidance for software models and assist in upgrade processes such as retiring technologies that support applications without causing an impact to the applications themselves. At this point, the organization has created an efficient portfolio and reduced technology risk. What about the information that is used by applications within the portfolio, and how is that information tracked? The information portfolio provides the organization visibility into types of data being stored and how applications are interacting with that data. ServiceNow created the Information Object CI class as part of the Common Service Data Model. An information object is a logical representation of the type of information that is exchanged between an application and its related database. By tracking information as configuration items, stakeholders can quickly detect the impact to data in an event such as a security breach or an outage. Within application portfolio management, business application CIs are related to database CIs. Database CIs provide information to the application CI using the information object CI. Within this relationship, attributes of the types of operations that can be performed on data, such as create, read, update, and delete, are captured. Collections of information objects are created by categorizing them into data domains. As an example of a data domain would be employee data. Stakeholders can use the information portfolio to drill down into different information objects that are within a data domain and view attributes such as if the data is sensitive, who owns the information, and the business units or departments that are using the information. So to recap, I've detailed the main uses of applications portfolio management to reduce the total cost of ownership and risk of a portfolio. The last topic I want to discuss that appeared on the previous slides is the Common Service Data Model. The CSDM is a configuration management database framework that sets the standard for configuration item mapping for all ServiceNow products that use the CMDB. I've mentioned some of the new CI classes introduced in CSDM, such as business capabilities and information objects previously. And the last one I'll touch base on is the application service CI class. An application service is a logical representation of a deployed application stack. Application services are often referred to as instances of a business application. Application services can be used operationally to track which deployment of the business application is experiencing an issue and creating an incident. For example, ServiceNow Dev is down, but ServiceNow Prod is not. On the right side of the slide, we have examples of the type of data that fit within the Common Service Data Model hierarchy. To leverage the full power of APM, it's important that data within the CMDB is gathered and related properly. For a deep dive into CSDM, we have a GlideFast on Air webinar titled Breaking Down the Common Service Data Model, presented by our own Jacob Benker and Will Young. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to guide you through the main uses of APM that empowers an organization to reduce its cost and risk within its portfolio. I'll now hand over the presentation to Chris Yang and Albert Hugh for a demo and more information on APM and how it relates to other ServiceNow applications.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley, for such a great overview of APM. So I'll be going over a demo of the Application Portfolio Management Portal that's in ServiceNow. So the APM portal is divided into 4 main portfolios: the business portfolio, information portfolio, application portfolio, and the technology portfolio. So the business portfolio is where you go to do all your business capability planning activities. It shows the existing capabilities for your organization mapped by their parent-child relationships. We can use manage capability hierarchy to easily add or edit existing capabilities. Here, number 7, we see the top level capability we want to provide is manage customer service. Within this capability is supported by sub-capabilities: evaluate customer operations and customer satisfaction, and manage product recalls and regulatory audits, and etc. Each of these sub-capabilities can contain others as well, and you can have up to 6 levels of capability mapping. Each capability shows the latest capability score that's calculated by their fiscal period, which is defined in a list of rules in your instance. You can also see which business applications support that capability and their overall score as well. For example, managed customer service supported by CustTrack and legacy customer service. Next, I'll be handing over to Al to discuss some features around the information portfolio.
Thanks, Chris. I'll just share my screen quickly. So we added a new object in APM in our New York release called Information Objects. So what you're looking at is a list view of all our information objects on that we now have in the platform. I'm just going to group them by data domain to quickly show you. The idea behind this is now we can start to categorize the information that's used by your business applications. So as Ashley mentioned, one of the core aspects of managing your application inventory is what information is being used. It's a core lens that we like to look at our applications. So I can understand which applications use payment card information for PCI DSS regulations, personally identifiable information, like as we had mentioned in the example with the CSDM, customer email, customer account number, etc., or employee data. So example is employee benefits. If I drill into this here, you'll see the attributes we're tracking for an information object, but most importantly, we're understanding the relationships it has both to the business applications and the infrastructure. So if I bring up this dependency view, what you'll see is a map that shows here's an information object called employee benefits in the middle. And we can understand that two business applications are using this information. So rewards engagement and Avid employee engagement system are both showing employee benefits information. And we can actually track how it's being used. For example, is it a create, read, update, or delete relationship? Or is it a read only? We can track that on APM. And additionally, we can see where the information actually is physically. We can see here it's both in a structured data for database catalog on the right-hand side, or an Exchange mailbox, which is unstructured data. In addition to Exchange mailboxes, you can have file systems and files themselves, where you're mapping an information object to exactly where it's located in the environment. All right, I'll just turn it back to Chris to walk you through some of the other features, and we'll come back to other things as well.
So back to the APM portal. Next, we have the application portfolio, and this will list all the application in the organization, similar to other lists in the platform view. You can use show matching or filter out feature on the particular value to apply the desired filter. And we can sort a table by any of these columns, for example, the user base, to see the application that are being most utilized in the organization. In the Analyze section of the application portfolio, we can select an application category to do further analysis on a group of applications. Clicking to customer support, we can see a bubble chart view for the application category, and we can select the assessment period to filter on certain criteria to narrow down the application list. By default, is the latest fiscal period. In the bubble chart, we can see the axis represent CSAT versus functional fit score by default. And the size of the bubble represent the number of incidents submitted against that application. We have the ability to change to other options, such as technical risk score versus the business value score, and the bubble size as number of changes. This will give additional insights depending on which parameters that you choose. As mentioned before, the value of APM on the Now platform is being able to take action where you see there is a gap. We can create demand by clicking on an application in the bubble chart. Tying back to the theme of the webinar of reducing organizational excess, the legacy customer service application has a low technical risk score, which means it's at a high risk, and a low business value score, which makes it a good candidate for us to be, for it to be replaced or retired. So here we can create a demand. Action will say retire application. And we'll give it retire customer service legacy app. For the category, I'm going to leave it as strategic, type as the project, and we can set a start date of beginning of next month. So back to the APM portal, and the last portfolio I'm going to show today is the technology portfolio. Here we can see all the hardware and software models associated with the particular business application grouped by their risk ratings. The risk of the hardware and software models roll up to the application server. Hey.
Chris, sorry to interrupt. Do you mind just zooming it back a little bit just so we can see a little more of the real estate on there? Yeah, that's good right there.
Okay, much better. Thanks, Al. Right, so the risk of the hardware and software models roll up to the application service, which in turn rolls up to the business application. For example, we can see that the Big Slash has 3 application services, 2 of which has a high risk rating due to the underlying software model being out of support. The Oracle DB server is at high risk. And that's because it's past the end of life cycle support. This in turn gives the application a high risk rating as well. Like other areas of the APM portal, we can create a demand right from this view and upgraded Oracle database server to the current standards. Action here, we can select align to architecture standard. We'll give it a name of upgrade Oracle DB server. Category, we can say operational this time, and type would be a change. So this logs into a demand, which if you use PPM in ServiceNow, it'll tie into the ITBM portfolio. Okay. Now that we have organized and matured our application and business portfolios, the next question would be, how do we maintain this data and keeping it current? This is where ServiceNow's data certification comes into play. Out of the box, APM provides a certification schedule for the applications on a quarterly basis. This can be easily extended to other areas of CSDM, such as application services or information objects. When I was a ServiceNow customer, before this feature was available, I did this manually by emailing all the application owners on a quarterly basis. And not only the response rate was low, it was difficult to track as well. This feature would have made the process much easier, since it creates tasks for the application owners to complete and sends follow-up emails automatically. APM is a data-driven capability, and having that consistent and reliable data through the data certification process is critical to the success of APM. Great. Now I will hand it back to Ashley for some question slides.
All right, I think Lauren, you have questions here.
Yep, looks like a couple questions have come in. Here's the first one for you guys. Why should we use ServiceNow instead of some other platform for APM?
Yeah, so I can go ahead and take that one. So ServiceNow, you can leverage the hard work you have already done in other parts of ServiceNow, such as the CMDB, CSDM. If you have discovery or service mapping enabled, all that hard work is going to roll up into APM. So you don't need to start over from scratch. And on top of that, you can create a centralized repository of all your business capabilities and your applications in ServiceNow, so it can serve as a source of truth.
Awesome.
Hey, Chris, I'd like to add on to that too. So what I've noticed working at different customers before working at GlideFast is a lot of other customers are already using demand and project within ITBM, and with APM being part of ITBM, it just integrates seamlessly, and you can go ahead and start using it with your demand and project processes within ServiceNow.
Great.
And finally, I'll also add, if you don't mind, I'll just share a screen quickly. If you can see, one of the things I found with customers not adopting a platform approach is for other tools, or even in their SharePoint or spreadsheets, they're adding a lot of attributes or information to that one thing. So, or even if you're customizing an application record on the platform, you're adding all these additional tabs of information. Well, in ServiceNow, actually, because you adopt a more platform approach, application portfolio management really integrates more against all of the other applications of the platform. So really accelerate the value you're using for other applications. Typically, customers using application portfolio management solutions or platforms outside of ServiceNow have to integrate all this data, which adds a lot of maintenance nightmare, especially keeping data up to date. And if the data is not up to date, you're not going to trust that information. If you don't trust that, you're not going to make any decisions. And if you don't make any decisions, there's no value. So really thinking about a platform approach is the most important thing you can think of.
Here's another question. Can APM be implemented in phases? What is the best approach to get started, since so many stakeholders need to be engaged and much data is needed to be gathered?
Great question.
I'll go ahead and take this one. Yeah. Unless you want to, Al, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just going to talk. There is a maturity model in APM. There's about like 4 different stages of maturity. But the first one is to create that application inventory within ServiceNow. That's going to be the most common use case that a lot of organizations use, and that's where they're going to get started as far as bringing all those CIs and applications within that central repository. That way, like Al said, they trust that data and they know where it's at. And then they can move on to the business capability planning. They can move on to technology portfolio management as they, have that solid application inventory with data certification. And Al, I'll let you add on if you have more.
No, that's exactly right. I think the first level of maturity is just establishing ownership. One of the key things to easily make a decision is if you can't find an owner in the business for that application, IT has to ask the question, why are we still running this? So by doing that quick inventory, you don't have to gather cost information, infrastructure data, asset management data. You can just quickly establish, well, if we're not using this application anymore, there's no need for us to continue running it. Very easy to quickly reduce the applications or the TCO that you're running infrastructure on by removing that. So Ashley, you're right on.
Awesome, great question. Here's another. Do we need to implement CSDM in order to start working with APM?
So I'll take that one. Common Service Data Model is more a prescriptive guide. It's not really a product or thing like that. If you want to start doing application portfolio management, as Ashley mentioned, you want to start with your application inventory. That's the business applications. So really putting them in the right table is kind of your first question. And so it's really not about implementing CSDM. It's just, what do we want to do in terms of using the right tables in ServiceNow? So business applications and business capabilities are part of APM, and they're prescribed by the Common Service Data Model. So that first level of maturity that Ashley talked about is getting your inventory in there, establishing ownership, who owns those. And then the next level is the business value. Aligning it to business capabilities in the platform is that first step to onboarding APM. But by the way, it also helps you with your CSDM journey as well.
Awesome. And here's a follow-up to that. If we have our current inventory in the business application table, how do we migrate?
Yeah, the great news, Christine, is you don't have to do anything. If you have it in the business application table, which is the CMDB CI business app table, you don't have to do anything. The question is, do you want to take advantage of the additional features that APM provides? So that's where you can look at subscribing to APM and unlocking additional features that Chris had demonstrated for you in terms of how do you manage technology life cycles, how do we understand application analysis or application rationalization, or the information objects and managing those. So, and then finally the business capabilities. So that's a great question. And certainly GlideFast can help you with that adoption and maturity as you continue on. Sounds like that might be a customer might want to talk to, Ashley, about seeing how you can help them with their journey.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
For sure. We still have two more questions. What modules do you recommend to have in place before implementing APM?
So actually, that's a good question. There isn't really any dependency because the business application table is out of the box. It's provided there. You can start right away. When you get to the next levels of maturity, having CMDB in place, understanding your application services is going to help you. So it's not necessarily modules, but really, the CMDB maturity is what I would say. Definitely PPM. If you can, what Chris had shown you is we show you insights into your application inventory, and so you can create an action. But to track that action and actually execute on it, you might want to look at our ITBM or project portfolio management to really get the benefit realization of that action. So that's an example of where adding new additional features really enhances the value versus there really isn't any dependencies to get you started with APM.
Awesome. And here's one last question for you guys. What are some new features of APM that were released in Paris?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I can take that one again. So let me just share my screen again. So this is that maturity model. Let me talk about what's new in APM here. So first of all, go into new features here in Paris. So last month we released our Paris release, really excited about it. One of the things we added was exposing the power of the platform and the workflow capabilities to the enterprise architect or your solution architects. So in the past, how do we onboard an application for business units? It might be like if I'm in finance or HR and IT is asking me to register my business applications, it might have been a cumbersome process. We've really created a workflow called Register Business Application where someone can onboard a new application very easily. And what it does, it gives an approval workflow so that an enterprise architect can see that submission and decide, oh no, we already have that record, we don't need to create it, or they can go ahead and approve it and it creates the record automatically. So that's the birth of an application. On the flip side, we added retire business application, which is really the death. So hopefully we want to enhance, that retirement of legacy infrastructure applications. We now have a workflow where a business owner can retire an application and then we can assign a project template against it. First of all, let's remove all the licenses, archive the data, set up a plan to retire the infrastructure. So this is a workflow that we've created to help you retire business applications. And then in the middle, any requests that you have for enterprise architect to do architecture reviews, we have a third request for that as well. So that's one of the features in Paris. Another one is if you've seen APM before, and what Chris had talked about is creating demands or building a roadmap. Well, in the past, we only showed demands and projects only, which is more legacy waterfall type activities. Now we combine this into a backlog where you can see projects, demands, and your epics and stories, both your agile and waterfall work in one single timeline view. So that's called the application backlog feature. And then also the power of the CSDM, the common service data model, as you start populating tables in ServiceNow according to the CSDM, you can take advantage of something called the CMDB query builder. So this allows you to create really cool reports, such as, I want to know all the personally identifiable information on all business applications. You can create a query like that. Or I want to understand all the servers that are part of an application service, that are part of a business application, that are part of the procure to pay business capability. So there's really cool reports you can create based on the CMDB query builder. And then the last one, which I'm really excited about, is our integration with our GRC, governance, risk, and compliance applications. For many organizations that have over 500 applications, it's really tough to assess the risk to the business of these. For example, what applications introduce general data protection regulation controls? Which ones are having PCI, payment card information, or data security standards controls that are part of it? Or how do we assess what are our crown jewel applications? For example, which applications hold our critical customer data? Well, now we've created an automated workflow with our GRC integration, which kind of follows like this. Once you start the business application, once it's created in ServiceNow and the APM, this is where GRC creates what's called an entity automatically. So now we can start to audit that application. And then what we do is two flows of automation. One is we send a questionnaire to the application owner. That's why ownership is important. And that questionnaire allows them to answer questions that the risk analyst needs to understand and review. So the app owner responds to the questionnaire on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we also use the information objects to understand, okay, what controls? For example, if we knew that there is a credit card number as part of an application, we know it's going to be submitted to certain PCI DSS controls. So those are two automations that work on parallel. If we go on the left-hand side here with the responding to questionnaire, the risk analyst can now review the response, and that's an iterative loop. So they keep iterating, make sure that the responses are satisfactory. And then the risk analyst can go ahead and start to assess, based on the results of that, what is the criticality of the application? So a lot of times now we can help prioritize to understand, oh, this application that's newly onboarded falls under these controls, and is either mission critical or it's maybe just something that's used internally. And then as you continue on, I won't go through all the workflow. We automate the automation of assessing policies, risks, citations against the applications, and recommend tasks or remediations or activities that you need to do to help control that application. So it's a full workflow that we've built in. And again, very quickly, it's available to you for any APM and GRC customer. You can now download 2 store applications, just like you do on your iPhone. You can download it to your instance and add this capability. And right from there, you'll see that on the business application record, we've added these additional tabs. We can understand what is a risk questionnaire, what is the automated risk summary, or on the right-hand side, GRC can understand what risks are generated, and then what are the issues and remediations I need to take. So this is some of the integrations and new features we've added from our Paris release.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Albert. That looks like all the questions that came in for the webinar. So it is time to announce the winner of our $50 Visa gift card. And it looks like the winner is Angela Chernosky. Congratulations, Angela. We will email the prize to you directly. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and a big shout out to Albert from ServiceNow for joining us today. And thank you to Ashley and Chris. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@glidefast.com if you have any more questions that arise. And to see more sessions, just visit us at www.glidefast.com to see more on airs just like today. Thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.